Hi guys, my name is Fee and welcome to my book nook. So in today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about Ali Hazelwood's new book, Deep End. This was released on the 4th of Feb and I've seen so many debates about this book already. So I just finished reading it and I wanted to talk to you guys about it and tell you whether I think it's worth your time or not. So get comfortable, grab a cup of coffee and let's get started. So I went into this book knowing absolutely nothing. I didn't even know the characters' names. I saw a new Ali Hazelwood book. I had nothing to read. I said, yes, it's as simple as that. I've seen a lot of debates about this book already. People tend to either really like it, where it's like a 4 or 5-star read, or people seem to really dislike it. I wanted to weigh in. I finished this book like 5 days ago. I wanted to let it marinate before I speak about it because I was like riding the high of how good the book was. For me personally, I loved it. I ate this book up. It's about 450 pages and it took me 2 days to read. I flew through this book because it was just so amazing. There is just so much about this book that I loved. There are some things that I wasn't 100% happy with. I loved the book so much that the stuff I liked really overpowered anything that I didn't like. And for me, I think it's just a lot about your expectations, especially because it's an Ali Hazelwood book. I kind of know the formula that she uses to write her books, and for me, that's a win. But I know for a lot of people, this book in specific probably isn't, but I kind of agree with her that this could probably be her best book. It's still a little bit early for me to decide that because it's only been a couple of days, but I just enjoyed it that much. I know some people, again, like to go into books without knowing anything. I'm pretty much the same. So I'll give you a really brief synopsis first. Just give you a very brief what this book is about, what to expect before you read it. Before I say anything that's even slightly spoilerish, I will give you a warning so that you can go into this book with a completely blank slate. So this is a contemporary sports romance. It's set in college, it's set at Stanford. We're following this diver named Scarlett. She is a student athlete, meaning she wants to get into med school. That's her focus there. So she's really trying there. She's really smart. And on the other hand, she is a diver and, she's really good and she has so much of training. And unfortunately for Scarlett, I think a year ago, she had a really bad accident and she'd been recovering from that. So this is her first season competing again. And, that's her whole thing. Then we have Lucas. When I read this book, I didn't even know who the male lead was going to be. So Lucas is a swimmer and he is like really good. He is an Olympic medalist, I believe, and he's really good at what he does. And Scarlett, so in this book, we follow Scarlett's point of view. Unfortunately, we only get her point of view. I really do wish that we had Lucas's point of view as well, but we follow her point of view. Really doesn't know much about Lucas. From her own opinions and experiences, she kind of thinks that they're really, really different. There's a multitude of situations from projects to swimming related stuff since they both on Stanford's, team. They thrown together through some circumstances and end up finding out a lot about each other, and then they decide to start up this unlikely arrangement. It's supposed to be just a fling between the two of them, nothing serious, and then they seem to not be able to let each other go. So I think the thing that I believe puts people off from this book is the fact that Lucas is Scarlett's teammate's ex, or her captain's ex, from the divers. I think that does put people off a lot. For me, I understand, I really do get it. It's just that I enjoyed the book so much that I overlooked that. I had such a good time that I didn't want to find criticism with this book. I am aware that it's not a perfect book, right? But I enjoyed it so much that I really don't want to overshadow any of that enjoyment. I'm going to talk about a couple of more specific things in the book, and if you don't want to know anything about it, I think maybe, don't hear anymore. But this is just how I felt, things I enjoyed, things I didn't enjoy in the book, and my own, personal experience reading this book. So this book, like all Ali Hazelwood's book, books have this quirky humor that I just love so much. I didn't know that there was going to be anything STEM related in this book. For me, Scarlett as a character was as relatable a character as I've ever read. This book is made for burnt out, gifted children, and the academic pressure, the way Scarlett thinks, her overthinking, her tendency to kind of put her friendships before herself, to doubt herself, and the way she overthinks and stuff was just articulated so well. And I just found it so relatable the way that her character was developed, and she had such a good character arc. There was such good representation in this book, so many good topics that were dealt with in this book, and it was handled so well. They show Scarlett going to therapy and those kind of things, and I think it's really nice to see, and it was handled really well. I do think before you read this book, you should read the triggers. If there's anything that you are not into, then you rather know early, right? It's just for me, reading about characters in STEM, I find really relatable. Like, they were talking about certain things, that like projects and stuff that Scarlett and Lucas were doing, and I was like, oh my god, I know what they're talking about. I've, done similar things, used similar stuff, and it's just like, you just feel so included and so seen, because I feel like it's so difficult to find books with characters in STEM, and not just set in that world, but where it's really shown that it's part of the character's personality, because it is, it's a really big part of who you are, and it's just so nice to be able to relate to someone in that type of thing. Another thing that I really appreciated about this book is that Scarlett's diving and the competitions with the Olympics and everything building up to that are a main part of the book. The entire book is not just focused on the romance, even though it's a contemporary romance, right? But the whole book isn't only focused on that, because I think that's really realistic, that especially in college, your entire life doesn't revolve around that. So this gave it a more realistic, kind of plotline where there were other things going on and not everything revolved around. I thought the book overall was very well paced. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There was also cameos in this book for some of Ali Hazelwood's other books, which was so, you didn't see that coming, and that was so nice to see. I also thought that the characters were very realistic for their age. So for me, I'm about the same age as them. I found that as well very relatable, and I found both of the characters to be very easy to connect with. They didn't feel like flat characters at all. Another thing that I really loved was the epilogue. I know it's so strange, because generally I don't really care for the epilogues in books, but this one was so good. Lucas is the standard, the entire book. He does have some flaws and stuff, which I think just makes it more believable, but he was just so great the entire book. Absolutely loved it. The quotes in this book, like, some of the lines he says, I highlighted so much, because it was just had me giggling. It was just so good. And the book was funny too. A lot of the banter between them and stuff was just so good. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed the plot, I enjoyed almost everything about this book. The stuff I did enjoy, right? So I rated this book 4.5 out of 5. I am aware that it might not be a literary masterpiece, but in terms of how much I enjoyed it, I would give it a 4.5. The things that I didn't like was, there's a secondary character. I'm not gonna say who it is, because I feel like that might give away some stuff. There's a secondary character who I felt like I was very aware that her whole point there was to be a plot device, and I was just aware of that a lot. I felt like she needed a character. I don't know, there was just something off, especially towards the end of the book, about the way she behaved. I kind of expected it to happen, but it just didn't sit right with me, the way it was done and the way a lot of the stuff revolving that character were handled. I just felt like she could have done with more of a character arc, or at least so that we could see, some growth. Another thing that I wasn't entirely happy with was, there was this big project that Lucas and Scarlett were doing. It kind of didn't really go anywhere. Maybe I missed something, but it felt like the entire point of that project was just to get them together, and then it kind of fell flat after that. Overall, that's basically how I felt about the book. I really enjoyed it. I really appreciated the topics covered, and I do think that some of the stuff that might put you off, like the fact that she's dating her captain's ex, I think in the context of the story, it's okay. Like the way it's done and the way things are handled, maybe in real life it's a little bit different. I do think that this book is worth your time. I think it was a really well done book. It was just very entertaining and it was such a good read. I really enjoyed it. I'm in such a bad book slump now because all I can think about is Scarlett and Lucas, because I just had such an enjoyable time. I really do recommend it to you. Honestly, this book really knocked my expectations out. I didn't think that I was going to enjoy it so much, and I think you'll enjoy it too, especially if you like sports romance books, quirky characters. It's genuinely funny. If you enjoy, that kind of academic setting and everything related to that, I think you would really have a good time. I think even though the characters were smart, none of them was smart in a condescending kind of way. But it's so easy for you to be like that. They were very lovable characters, and even the plot, I didn't expect it, to have such a strong plot line outside of the romance. And you had, there were so many scenes between Lucas and Scarlett. And there is an author's note before the book start. So if that puts you off from the book, there is a lot of that in the book. So just be mindful of that. Don't go into it with super high expectations. It's a good book. I think it depends so much on you and what you value and what you appreciate and what you're looking for in a book. That really affects how you're going to view it and see it. I hope my review of the book helped and didn't make it more complicated for you. Comment down below if you are planning on reading Deep End. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you guys next week.